Welcome, NBA fans, to OTG's Western Conference playoff preview. I'm Harris Wichard here with Nick Fay. Nick, finally, the Western Conference, the gauntlet, the playoffs. I know you're excited about this.
The West. I mean, we just talked about the East. The East first round, not as crazy. I think the West, it could be more intriguing. There's more chance for upset. So I'm ready to get started. I know you're hyped. We get to talk about the Warriors a little bit on here.
Yep. Let's take a look, jump right into that first matchup. The 1-seeded Warriors against the 8-seeded Portland Trail Blazers. And, the Blazers getting in over the Nuggets. And, Lillard was asked, and this was a little misleading, this quote that he had about Blazers in 6. One reporter, with a joke. I know obviously Lillard's not joking about this series, but one reporter asked him as a joke, who do you got, Blazers in 6 or 7? He said Blazers in 6. Obviously, he's a confident player. If there was any stage that he wanted to prove himself, now would be the time. He didn't play bad in the series last year, when Portland wouldn't have him on the ropes, but Curry was banged up and came back in this series and was able to take control. Portland lost to the Warriors. But now, rematch, Warriors, Blazers. Warriors, a little bit different team than last year, fully healthy. Durant seems to be okay. This one there's going to be a competitive game or two, but I think we understand where this is headed.
Yeah, I mean, the season series was 4-0 Warriors. I'm going to go out and say this right now. The Warriors are my pick to win the championship.
Oh, boy, early.
Anybody beating them? Yeah, I'm going early. I mean, that's saying they're healthy. Kevin Durant comes back. We're good to go. I like the Blazers. I like Dame Lillard. He's been in a tear since All-Star break. He's been one of the best players in the league, and he's really carried them into the postseason. And it sucks Nurkic isn't playing, but without him, I don't think they really have a chance. And the Warriors are like deadly, bro. We talked about this going into the season. Like they're going to be starting, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, and Draymond Green, and whoever they want to play at center. They could play Zaza, they could play JaVale McGee, or they can go with that small ball and play Andre Iguodala. So, tough to see Portland matching up with the Warriors at their best. I have this one being cleaned up real quick.
Yeah, so I think Portland can get one game on the road. I'm sorry, at home with the Warriors on the road. But even that might be asking them a lot. This is a team that
I think so.
This is a team that struggled early in the year. They picked it up a little bit of late. Lillard went on his what we could call now annual "Why am I not in the All-Star game?" rant of tremendous play, averaging 30 for like a 15-game stretch or whatever it was. But it's going to take more than Dame Dollar to slow down this buzzsaw they're about to run into. Give me the Warriors in 5.
Give me that sweep. First sweep of the postseason right here. Dame and the sad thing is Dame and CJ probably could both go off and they'll probably still lose games.
Yeah.
So talented. And I think they're just, they're going to be in Warriors playoff mode. And like I've said to you in the past, that I think this Warriors team going into this postseason is just going to be deadly, and they're finding their rhythm perfectly going into the postseason this year, and that defense is locked in. I just think this is going to be a really great postseason for Golden State. So I'm going with the sweep, and you're going with the 5.
All right, yeah. So let's look into our next series, which is the 2-seeded San Antonio Spurs and the 7-seeded Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, this is going to be some old school basketball. We'll see some good front court play. We obviously got Marc Gasol going up against his brother Pau Gasol, so that's always fun to watch. The Grizz have kind of been banged up all year. I wouldn't say this has been a great season for them, but they have suffered a lot of injuries. And the Spurs are kind of, Pop's not messing around. First run against the Clippers a few years ago, but that's a rare thing to happen. I think this is going to be a nice matchup for the Spurs, and I think they should be able to win this one.
Yeah, I would think so too. This is one of those series, though, that what, like you said, grinded out old school basketball. I think if you're a fan of the 90s or complaining about the pace today or complaining about the way basketball is played in general, you'd probably tune into this one out of all of the series in the first round. Don't watch Houston, OKC, don't watch Golden State, Portland. If that's your those are your beefs. But like you said, if you look at the season series, which is tied at 2, only one team scored over 100 in any of those games, and that was Memphis in their second to last second matchup of the season. They played a lot late, 95-89, 97-90. So you know what kind of grind it out. They call it the grindhouse for a reason. My pick in this series is the Spurs, and I would say in about 6 games.
And one negative note I want to throw out there too is that it was just announced Tony Allen is out indefinitely, so he's probably going to miss this whole series, and I think that's going to hurt them because they kind of need someone to slow down Kawhi. MVP candidate Kawhi, who's been really stepping up as an offensive player this year. I think the Spurs are just too much to handle. They have too much offensive firepower, where the Grizzlies have to play too many guys that they really don't know what they're getting from. They have Marc Gasol, they have Mike Conley, they have Zach Randolph. But they don't really know what they're getting consistently from those wings and from that bench. So I think they would need a giant series from Marc Gasol and Mike Conley to have any type of chance. Give me the Spurs in 5.
Yeah, like you just mentioned, the Tony Allen, that is a big blow for them. That's definitely a big blow for that.
He seems to have good moments in the playoffs.
For all first team?
Yeah.
All that defense rant. But he definitely gives them a lot of energy. And I think that's definitely going to cost them. And like you said, I think this is going to be still competitive, though. And I think Memphis at home is, a tough matchup. But I can't see the Spurs going home in the first round after having, they like to go under the radar. And, another under the radar 61-win season for the Spurs.
Yeah, it's funny. Nobody really talks about them. They just won 60-plus games again. No big deal. Pop just continues to add to his NBA resume.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I just think that they're too talented and they have too many pieces and their system is just run too well. And you're talking about another team on the other side who's running, with a newer head coach, and it's the first year and they're running a new system. They picked up their pace this year. They're not as much as a grind as they used to be. So I think the Spurs should be able to take this one in 5. And not anything like I couldn't see this one going 7. I couldn't see an upset.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot to this series. This is not a very, we talked about, glamorous series. You're not gonna get a lot of people. You get those fan bases, but I don't think anybody's staying up late. Oh, you got to catch the Spurs Grizzlies game. This is not one of the most intriguing matchups, but I do think Memphis can still get a couple and give them a sweat until they have to move on and play the winner of that Houston OKC series.
Yeah, and I'm sure Mohammed would be pretty happy with you when you said that they could get a couple, but I'm not as confident.
Yeah, they didn't necessarily win me over, Memphis, throughout the year, but I've seen the way they could buckle down, and their style does tailor towards the postseason if there's any style that does. Because there are some teams, like we'll talk about in the next series, that styles have been dethroned in the postseason before. And
the next series is going to be what I'm ready to talk about.
I think what the whole basketball world's going to be ready to talk about, and that is the third-seeded Houston Rockets against the 6th-seeded Oklahoma City Thunder. I've heard some rumors that they're going to have the MVP trophy hovering over half court, and the winner of this series, whether it's James Harden's Rockets or Russell Westbrook's Thunder, will just grab it and take it with them after the series is concluded.
Something, and it's funny. Obviously, the postseason doesn't count towards MVP, but it's just ironic that the 2 top guys in the MVP race, which has been great, are playing in the first round in what will be a competitive series. But I you speak first.
Well, I'm going with the Thunder because I talked to you about my only real upset of the first round, and I don't know. I obviously one of the main reasons why I'm picking this series is Westbrook, but I think if there was any team Houston didn't want to see in the first round, it's Oklahoma City, just because of the pace that he plays and what he can get them going and how he can get them going. But if I look at the regular season, 2-point game, 3-point game, 2-point game, I'm just looking for Oklahoma City to get one on the road early in these first 2 games. And I know, you have this love affair with Houston. I know you like their team, but we've seen D'Antoni in the playoffs before. I know with Nash, and I was a fan of those Phoenix teams. So those series broke my heart. But I just like the way OKC's picking. They're my dark horse to make some noise. I don't have them obviously going all the way to the finals, but I have them winning this series in 7 in the upset of the first round.
Houston, all I'm doing this series is making Westbrook's life miserable. I'm just making it so difficult for him to have the ball. Patrick Beverley does a great job of that. I'm picking up full court all game. I'm just trying to tire him out. And, kind of like what the Cavs did when they won the championship is they kind of put a beating on Steph a little bit. And where every time he was going around screens, they just gave him the extra bump. When he got fouled, he got those hard fouls. Obviously, people have tried to do this to Westbrook. It hasn't worked as much. But if you make that your focus and you make somebody step up on OKC to score, there isn't anybody that can really step up in that role. Victor Oladipo hasn't been that consistent scorer. Enes Kanter would probably be maybe a guy you could look for in the front court, would probably be their best chance to really take advantage with Kanter and Adams. But I think Houston just has too much offensive firepower. We talked about it on the award show a little bit. They have Lou Williams and Eric Gordon coming off the bench. They have James Harden, possible MVP. Trevor Ariza has really picked it up late. And Clint Capella also gives them an interesting element too. Ryan Anderson, I didn't even mention him. So there's just so much offensive firepower. And even half of these guys can have bad nights, and then the Rockets can still produce so many points. And OKC is more of a defensive team, so I just don't see them matching up well with the situation. I just don't think that they're going to be able to put enough points to really scare Houston.
Do you remember that? I just remember this series a couple years ago, and I know it just reminds me somewhat of this when Denver was that 3, and they won a bunch of games at 50 some odd games, and the Warriors were able to knock them off a few years back. This 3-6. In the past has been prone to some upsets. And
I think it'll be a competitive series.
No, I hear you with how deep Houston is and, the offensive juggernaut. But I don't know. I think this OKC team is, obviously they're out for blood. They have the whole triple-double king and blah, blah, blah. But outside of Westbrook, I think, like you said, the main factors is Enes Kanter going to come to play. Is Steven Adams going to come to play? Is Oladipo going to come to play? They have some other guys that are going to have to play huge and way over their heads to make up for the fact that Houston is just a deeper team.
I mean, Taj Gibson and McDermott. McDermott would probably be a guy that I would look at that would need to have a huge series. They just need offensive firepower to match with Houston because Houston has too many guys. You're not going to shut them all down. So you need to produce numbers. And like I said, they're going to make life miserable for Westbrook. One of these guys is going to have to step up, and I just don't know if they're going to be able to step up enough to get them the series. I'm going to go with Houston in 6.
Houston in 6. I like the Thunder in 7. This is the premier first-round matchup of the entire postseason, so everybody's eyes will be glued to that series and obviously has a lot of potential. The last first-round series in the Western Conference is the 4th-seeded LA Clippers and the 5th-seeded Utah Jazz. And like we said, we've been pointing to all year long, this could be the last hoorah in LA. So we know that this series, I think it's important that they did get home court. Both teams are 51-31. But this is one of those series that, if they happen to drop it, could be the all she wrote in LA.
True. So the Clippers are fighting for this team. And if they want to stay teammates with these guys, they're playing extra hard. If they really, have that unity. But this is kind of like an underrated, super exciting matchup. I know the last matchup we talked about is going to get all the hype. But if this 4-5 matchup, these are two great teams. And I think in previous seasons, either of these teams probably could have been a top 3 seed. Just Houston, San Antonio, and Golden State are all having great seasons, and they all seem to have great seasons at the same time. So I'm pumped to watch this. I'm kind of pumped to see this Utah team that we've been watching for the last few years develop, finally get a taste of the postseason and see what they're made of.
Yeah, I'm
2 premier centers in this game matchup, like DeAndre Jordan and Rudy Gobert, they're top 5 centers going at it.
Yeah, I'm interested to see that matchup, the center matchup. But Utah is a team that up and coming we thought would be pretty good this year. I don't know if I saw them winning 51 games. I would have to look back at the preseason predictions, and we expected them to play well, but they had a very solid season, the Jazz.
I think they did a great job in the offseason, and I don't think a lot of people talked about it. I'm not really that surprised at 51 because the pieces they added made 100% sense. They added Joe Johnson and Boris Diaw, 2 guys that definitely can help young players. And I look for Joe Johnson in the postseason. We know ISO Joe Cool hits those big shots. Don't be surprised if you see him hit a game winner in one of these games.
Yeah, someone that they can rely on, a veteran presence. I told you a couple weeks ago that I thought that the Clippers were going to surprise people in the second round matchup with Golden State, not necessarily win that series, but definitely be very competitive, just because I feel like it's that one team that could mess with them a little bit and has had some success in the past. Maybe not this version of Golden State, but I will pick the Clippers to beat the Jazz. I think that home court was really, really big. Not to say Utah can't go on the road, but the Clippers did win this series 3-1, and I'm almost positive that the one game that they got was in Utah. This is a good home team, the Jazz are. But I like the Clippers in this thing to go the distance as well. I think the Clippers are going to pull this off in 7.
Yeah, I like the Clippers in 7 too. Like we said, this is their last hurrah. So I think if they lost in the first round, we'd just be like, all right, bye Clipper fans. Like, you're not going to have a good team for a few seasons because everybody's leaving.
Yeah. And like
on the other hand is like, I mean, I still think they could win in 7, but I think the veterans are going to step up for the Clippers. I think Blake's going to have a big series. And for Utah, they really need Gordon Hayward to like have an elite series. Be that guy, that number one option offensively that can really like get those buckets late in the game when you're going back and forth the last 5 minutes of the game.
100%. Hayward's going to have to be monstrous. And, they have Gobert and they have, other guys off the bench. Like you had mentioned, Joe Johnson's going to play a major role. I like Joe Ingles is like a nice little piece.
Joe Ingles is an underrated player. He is a very good player. I think he's somebody that doesn't catch much hype just because of his, like his looks and just like he's not uber athletic. But he's a great 3-point shooter. I think he's top 3 this year. He also can make the right passes. He's just a smart basketball player, and I think he gives them a nice element too.
Well, and we didn't fail to mention probably one of their more valuable players as well in George Hill.
I'll have a tough matchup with Chris Paul. That's why I think it's so important for Gordon Hayward to have a big series because he's really the only Utah mismatch. Because Gobert and DeAndre like even each other out. Blake will probably take advantage of Utah wherever they play at the 4. Derek Favors has been banged up, but I think he'll be playing. And then it's going to be Gordon Hayward, really to make that move because I think what do they play? Batamute at the 3 and then JJ Redick at the 2. So it's like need you to be huge.
Yes, sir. So you have let's run down quickly, and you have them the picks of our Western Conference first round.
Warriors, I got the sweep. You got the Warriors in 5. Spurs, you have the Spurs in 6. I have the Spurs in 5. Rockets and OKC. This is our big disagreement so far. I have the Rockets in 6. You have OKC in 7. And then Clippers and Jazz, we both have the Clippers in 7.
Gotcha. So I want to ask you this.
Not a ton of disagreement here.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what could happen? I mean, it's the playoffs. I mean, people have complained about how chalky the NBA is and that you just, let's just fast forward to June already. But there are no guarantees, and there's a reason why they play them. But do you think this could be a coming out party for anybody? I know the Jazz are that new young kid on the block, but you look at up and down the West, could it be a potential coming out party for anybody, really? I mean, outside of the Jazz, I mean, who's going to – the only person I think that can really make a name for themselves and burst out onto the national scene would be like a Hayward.
Yeah, I think Hayward could have a really big series, and that could kind of, push his name to the next level, especially with him going into the offseason or being a free agent. Lesser guys around the league can kind of build up their name. Maybe like someone like a Simmons on the Spurs who plays a pretty big bench role, or like one of the guys off the Warriors bench, like McAdoo or Ian Clark. The Blazers, maybe somebody like an Allen Crabbe. So I think there's always, those role player guys that are going to get like a few minutes, and if they get hot, they're going to stay in longer, and it's going to have the opportunity to have those big moments. And when I think about, I know we didn't mention this on the Eastern preview, if I think East, like instantly pops right to my brain is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Obviously, he's been in the postseason, but I just look for him to put his footprint on the postseason. Even though they might lose the series, I can just see him having monster numbers.
Yeah, the Greek Freak's been monstrous all year, so I would expect that. But I looked at Hayward and I looked at this Jazz team. If there's a team that could kind of come out into the scene, the national scene, and kind of make themselves more well known, it would be that group.
And who knows if they won the first round series against the Clippers and they got some confidence. Like, we're not questioning the Jazz's talents. They're just a young team, and they have pieces on the bench too of these young players. And, rhythm and that vibe. Some of these teams just win games they're not supposed to win. So if they were to win the first round series, I would not want to face them in the second round just because I know they kind of have some mojo to them. I don't think they'd beat the Warriors, but it'd still be, like, oh, I don't want to play this Jazz team.
Yeah, I think that the Clippers will pose a bigger threat, but that's that to be determined, and that'll be further along in some of our pods. But that wraps it up for our Western Conference first round preview. Nick, it's been a pleasure doing both these with you, and I want everybody to hit that subscribe button. Also enjoy these first round matchups. It's going to be some fun games out there.
Harris, I always enjoy, especially when we're talking playoffs. We're talking playoffs, Harris, and so that's always extra. Playoffs, no, that's always a little bit extra fun.
Yeah.
And as always, keep an eye out for more podcasts because Harris and I and some of the other OTG guys are going to be doing some recaps after the late night stuff. Get it out there, talk about the games, thoughts out there right away for you.
Yeah.
Games like Harris said, and have a great night.
All right, take care.